Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News. And yes, I'm back. Boy, it's been since March. And my health, I'm not going to get too much into it. Still got some issues, still got some surgeries I got to do, but I'm back and we're going to start getting these shows rolling again with William. And he's big tonight and I'm little. I don't know why, William. I guess you're just going to take over the show tonight or something. We think.
I just got a screaming big head. That's what it is.
Yeah, he's got a big head. So, but we are ready to go, and we got lots of comments happening, and everybody's welcoming us back. Susan, so good to see you. Um, uh, my health it's going to be come and go, and but I'm going to get better every day. So, glad to see everybody. Linda and Karen, if you don't know and you're new to the show, is our moderator, and so is Mary. I'll get them all set up for being moderators. I'm not sure uh, if I where they're at because StreamYard changed everything. But I want to jump right into the news, and one of the biggest things, folks, I want to, one of the big things that brought me back and got me out of bed and standing at attention and saying I got to get the show going was the stock market. Um, One of the indicators that I'm seeing is we're heading for a depression. Now, I haven't went and pulled my money out of the bank yet, uh, but I'm close. I'm close. Um, we had, what got me was quite a few politicians using um, they know it's fixing to crash, so they're selling everything. Now, if you guys seen Google is now Gemini. Yeah, they lost out. So now Google is Gemini. Did you hear about that, William?
No, I'm just glad that the color factory is doing something.
Now the Dow was down almost 1,200 points. Now I thought it was more because I remembered up in the 20s, and it was down at 16. Um, it was a pretty big fall, almost 2,000 points in less than 2 days. Now Japan stocks were wiped out. Um, uh, they fell of almost 12% to half of what they had. Now, they've only declined since Monday. Um, so it's not good. And then we hear that
The markets are starting to rebound. I think they've found the bottom now.
well, yeah, everybody's evened out. And I think wasn't it you, William, that told me that they're pulling the stocks? No, it was what I heard today. They're pulling their stocks, and putting it into the war. And see, so
Right.
it adjusted the market. So they pulled from one part of the market and went into another part. So it showed that big drop. But then when they put it into the war uh, stocks, then everything started balancing back out. But now what got me is Warren Buffett is selling everything like he's having a big fire sale, William. Um, he
Yeah,
has
well,
dumped so many
they're pulling
stocks.
they're pulling their money out of the stocks, but they can't all get into the same vehicles all at once, right? So
Yeah.
only as stocks become available can they purchase them. So that now they've got all this cash reserve. They don't know what the hell to do with because they got jittery.
And one of the big one is Apple. Apple it is like everybody's dumping Apple, but I think it's the Google Gemini thing. Because we had Facebook that went to what Meta, Meta.
Yeah.
They did it. Now it looks like Google's going to do the same thing, but go to Gemini. Now those in chat, have you heard that so far? And even Warren Buffett dumping all of his stocks. That now I I know somebody that well, I can't really say much because then it would give them
Oh,
away. I know somebody that's close to Warren Buffett, and they're saying that he was losing out anyway, even with his um, is voting the votes to keep him in power. So I think, William, I think a lot, that's what they're all looking at right now is who's going to make it on the ballot, who's going to win. It'll be a great election this year when we go through it. Um, um,
Well, if they can place themselves right in the market, when the new president comes in, they can really see an upside. And you can't wait until the inauguration. You have to get in there early. So they're trying to do a couple things all at once, and they're not helping each other by trying to do it so quickly. I think it was this vice presidential pick that did it for me. Really, between the threat of war with Iran and Israel, and this new vice presidential pick.
yeah. Now I want to get into kind of this new presidential pick because we can't really say much more on the stocks because it's just going to be, we have to wait and see with the stocks, and that's how it is. It's day by day, hour by hour. Now, if we look at who Kamala Harris picked for her vice president, Tim Walz, he's pretty on the camera, but you found things that he's done. I found things that he's done, William. One thing that got me was he signed the bill and was in big support of giving illegal immigrants driver's license for the ability to vote. Now, this isn't the only thing he's done. I don't know why she picked him, except for he is a hardcore, I'm going to say communist, Democrat that is wants the same things that the squad wants. And I'll get into the squad a little bit later because there was an original squad with Kamala Harris. But now, William, you told me he wanted to put tampons.
Oh, he did. He did.
Okay, he did. So what did he do?
So he put tampons in the boys' bathrooms so everybody would be equal, right? So now we've got some people, particularly on Rumble, calling him Tampon Tim.
Ah. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff.
They were saying that Vance and Trump were weird. And so
yeah, did you hear that? It's a Operation Mockingbird. I mean, I seen it. Yeah, I was flipping through the channels, and it was like NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, all of them. They were all saying, "Oh, they're weird." He's, JD, Trump's pick. They're weird. They're weird. Now the whole in between JD and Trump, it's weird. It's weird. They're weird. They're weird. Weird. How are they? They're not even saying how they're being weird. They're just weird. They're weird, weird, weird. And it's Operation Mockingbird.
So with Operation Mockingbird, they say the exact same thing across all the different platforms.
And they're doing it.
But in where we're on the internet and whatnot, you have to come up with a meme that sticks and won't go away. So it's like giving somebody a nickname, right? And that's how we don't have Mockingbird. We actually have to use human nature to lock up a meme to combat this stuff. And so, they've been kind of mean with this stuff back and forth. I don't think it's really good for the American population, but this is a very, I guess you could call it almost an acidic election year.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that concerns me is, we've seen, and because I'm going to move on to the UK riots. It's a big thing on the news, and there's some of them that there's only half a dozen rioters out there, and then there's times there's a bunch of them, and they're doing fires. They're doing the rioting like they do here. Now, if those that have been around me for a long time know, I brought up Tommy Robinson a long time ago, and he was jailed, and I did a big thing on him. Well, he's back, and now the UK really is hunting him down, wanting to put him away for saying that he is the cause of the riots. Now, William, me and you know that's a bunch of crap. It's freedom of speech.
Well, they're going after YouTubers, anybody that makes comments right now in the UK.
I guess I'm going to get a strike.
So they're going after everybody. So we couldn't, like, if we were in UK and we were talking about this like we are right now, we could expect a knock on the door. And so that's going on. Then they've got a hands-off approach to the immigrants, and they're being rough with the citizen population. And that dichotomy is upsetting a lot of people. And then you throw in these professional agitators. You notice we don't have fires and riots going on here in the United States. That's because they're over there right now, and you can't be doing things in two different places at the same time, you know.
Yeah. Now the other thing that I'm hearing, and I read the signs. You know, some of them are just pre-printed, but some of them people write on. That's what I like to look at. And some of it is saying that quit overloading migrants into my home. Now, when I looked into it a little bit, William, do you know some of these people that have extra rooms, they're being forced to take migrants. These immigrants are migrants.
Well, they've got so many of the hotels right now that are all locked up with immigrants, and so the economy is going down in the UK. At the same time, all these immigrants are getting free room and board.
Yeah, and you know, even over there, because there was I know a few people that live over there that's from my old game group, and when I've talked to a few of them, they said, you know, you have to almost move your relatives in so you don't have an available room, because the government will put them in there, and they'll put 4 to 8 people in one room. And they say, we got a couch. You know, get bunk beds, 3 sets of bunk beds. Yeah, well, I mean, I couldn't imagine, because I've got an extra room, and I don't know if I could feed even 4 people. You know, and see, that's the kind of everything is bubbled over there in the UK with these riots. There's a lot going on as far as the freedom of speech, because you can't. There is no freedom of speech over there. That's a big one with Tommy Robinson.
So Nigel Farage says that the Prime Minister has no idea how to stop this thing. They're completely out of their league. This is an application that they don't understand. But what he's saying is they need to put as many policemen on the streets as they can, and then search people for weapons. Just do random searches, everybody.
Now, there is I wish I could remember the skyline down in Australia. There's certain news agencies around the world that are saying that this is only the beginning, that this will spread to the United States, that will cause a civil war. Now, I listened to that, William, and I was like, is that clickbait or what? Folks, watch out for clickbait. There's so much bad info out there on YouTube.
We go to repatriation before we go to civil war.
Right.
That's what we did with the Liberians, if you remember.
Mm-hmm. So
we gave people an opportunity to go back to Africa, and 50% of the communities wanted to stay here after they had the legal right to own property and they had the full voting rights. But another half wanted to, go to Africa and reestablish themselves. So I think the word of 2025 and 2026, we're going to be hearing a lot of repatriation.
Yeah. So now the big thing of the day is Iran and Israel, because it's going to take up a lot of a time on this. Because I told William that one of the last shows I did in March, we had Taiwan and China, we had Iran and um, Israel, we had Ukraine and Russia, and a few other things that was going on. And the threats were so big. Oh, we're going to start war tomorrow. Well, Israel is William. I don't know how many times that they've had everybody run to the bunkers and put on the masks uh, and saying, this is it. This is going to be the big one. With their wars. And over the last week or so, something just changed. Something changed.
Some of that is used as politics.
Right.
It's like local politics for Israel. So you've got the non-religious group. You've got the ultra-orthodox group. You've got the ones in Israel that have ties to the United States or Europe, and all these things are being pushed around by this warfare. And if you look, they've even quit talking about the hostages now.
Yeah, and it's like what 300 and I'm gonna say 8. I'm probably wrong on the number. 308 days, and they still got the hostages. See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because when I got real sick in March and I had to leave the show, they had those hostages, and I really believed by the time I had surgery that they would be freed, and they weren't. And when I got home and I didn't watch the news for a couple weeks because I was it was a hard recoup. And when I started watching it, I said, "Why are the hostages still happening?"
Because Israel pulled out their heavy armor out of Gaza. Hamas was only willing to make deals when they were being steamrolled and pushed into a corner.
Yeah.
And once that went away, they have no real reason to come up with a hostage deal, because they're using this as a terror marker with Israel as psychological warfare.
Yeah. Now a lot of this is Hezbollah terrorists firing these rockets into northern Israel. They've been doing that, and they did. There's been a lot going on with the missiles going back and forth, and the terror groups are basically funded by Iran. The entire Middle East now is on high alert as the U.S. basically believes Iran will directly attack Israel. And they're saying as soon as this moment. Now, when I hear that, William, they said it's going to be tomorrow. And I was like, no, they're sitting on it. They're going to wait. They're going to wait until everything calms down a little bit, or Israel isn't watching something. And then they're going to do it. I just can't believe some of the news reports that's come out saying they're going to do it tomorrow. That's not how Iran works.
Israel.
Yeah. Now, when I heard the whole the entire Middle East now is on high alert, so and is all paid for by Iran. So when you look at Iraq, because you've brought that up, and we've got Afghanistan and up with Hezbollah and the Houthi, and then we go all the way down to Yemen. That all of this is little places that Iran has funded, folks. And not just funded, but they loaded them up. That's one of the reasons why we decided to give Egypt some muscle and some power and missiles. And that was what, a year ago, William? Over a year when we gave the missiles to
But
Egypt?
keep in mind, we have Israel and Egypt have a peace agreement, so they can give each other mutual support.
Right. But then when you look you look at Iraq is full of ISIS and controlled and paid for by Iran. And then you look at Afghanistan, that big mess that the Biden Harris created in Afghanistan, to where we now have a terrorist that have a country. And then, now we're going into this Iran with Israel and with the Hezbollah. And it's not just Hezbollah. Now, and we've got Lebanon in the middle of it, and we've got the Palestinians, innocent Palestinians in the middle of it.
So, while Iran's Shiite, any place that there is a rebel army in the Middle East, they're funding these rebel Sunni armies to help break down this, not only the U.S. and Israel hold on the Middle East, but also the other Arab countries as well. See, this isn't just a fight about the big Satan and the little Satan. This is a long-term, long thought out goals of a greater Persia. At the same time, our Arab friends are looking at a greater Ottoman Empire. So we're rehashing what happened at the end of World War One.
There you go, Mary. Repeat and repeat. Repeat and repeat. There you go. Now, William, there was this political leader that was killed in Iran, and Hezbollah commander was killed in Lebanon. And
that was a boss leader in Iran that was killed. And then a Hezbollah leader was killed in Beirut, I believe.
Yes, we talked about the Beirut thing too. Now get this. Now the Houthis are attacking U.S. ships, commercial ships, U.S. military ships, and they fired on even on the drones, not only from the U.S. but also Israel's. And they say, it's not just Hezbollah. They came right out and said they fund Hamas too.
And if I were the president, I would issue an order that all of Western Yemen, all the ports, be turned into new beaches. Just lay waste to them.
And then,
so they can't do enough trade to keep their economy going, and it wouldn't be killing innocent people over in Santa and stuff like that. It would just be those port facilities, just make them so that they can't do these container ships.
Yeah. Now see, now we have, I think it was Harris that said that the nation is boosting military presence in the region. And I think the only reason she made this big old statement, William, is because of her running for president, because she's never put nothing into the military or made any comments. Now, the thing about the U.S. Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, he announced the Pentagon will deploy additional fighter jets and Navy warships, including cruisers and destroyers, which can shoot down ballistic missiles.
They're sending an additional carrier task force into. Well, it'll be a task force when you have two carriers working together. You have a strike force when it's just one carrier, and it's other ancillary ships that protect the aircraft carrier. And we're sending Air Force assets in. So we have, an extra 150 jets in the region. And so they're sending in 15s. So you've got long range and air dominance fighters, and they're sending in 22s that are super air dominance fighters as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I got any other little notes here.
But what's going on is Lloyd Austin and CENTCOM are trying to tamp down on these cross-border skirmishes because it really unsettles everything in the region, and it really affects trade, not just in shipping, but also in moving oil to Europe and oil to the United States, as well as oil to Asia.
Yeah.
This is a major disruption,
and well, not only that, but when you look at what not only what people don't realize is Israel is they're facing Iranian these proxies on 7 fronts. So you got to look at 7 fronts. So that's seven countries or 5 countries that have disturbed their own economic system to fight this war that they're drug into. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, the disturbing thing that I've heard is if Israel retaliates, then a NATO nation, Turkey, is willing to get involved in a war with Israel. And so that's happening. In Lebanon, the government there is telling everybody that's not a Lebanese citizen to get out of the country for their safety. And major airlines like Delta, Lufthansa, and whatnot are not going to Israel right now. And it's not because necessarily because they don't agree with what Israel's doing. It's just the liability for insurance goes way up, and it makes their airlines unprofitable. So they've had to pull back major airlines running out of, I think it's Tel Aviv, the airport in Tel Aviv.
I kind of want to move over a little bit to Ukraine and Russia with the F-16s that Denmark sent. Now, I don't want to say I was disgusted. I was just like, yeah, right. That Ukraine said they got these F-16s and now they bombed a convoy of Russian troops. And they're like, okay, now we're going to win the war. Well, you don't win the war with, F-16s. What was it, 10 of them, William?
Yeah, they've got 12 coming in, but right now they have 6.
Okay, so they got 6. So you're not gonna. You even said it earlier when we were talking about this. 6 F-16s don't win a war. There's more to a war than a few F-16s. And
if you think about it, now they know how to fly our jets, right? So they've gone from flying the old Russian Soviet style jets, which are a little cruder. You have to really just force them around in the sky, to flying jets that all you have to do is touch with your finger.
Yeah.
They're very subtle. More like playing a video game almost, than being a fighter like they're used to. But with all the extra capabilities the F-16A model brings, they're going to employ it the same way they employ their war fighting if they were Soviet.
Mm-hmm.
So the tactical gains that they could have with that jet is going to be tossed away because their battle doctrine is purely tactical with no strategic focus. Aspirations and tactical fights do not win a war.
You know, with Ukraine now, when I left in March, we had just assigned another more money to them, to Ukraine. It was in millions. And I thought, why do they keep sending this money over to them? Now, I've watched periodically over the last couple months. That seems to have stopped now that they're starting to expose Ukraine for using the money, keeping the money, but not really putting it into the warfare funds.
Well, what the United States, the White House is doing is they're propping up Ukraine until at least the end of the election cycle. Remember, for Democrats, everything, all focus is local.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
They don't want to have a major blot on their record like Afghanistan right before an election. And so they're going to prop up Ukraine to get through January.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what happens after that?
Yeah. Now,
I think
you know, here's a good Trump question for you. Do you think Trump is going to pile up and sign a whole bunch of things into executive order and all, and put into power like not Biden but Kamala Harris? And I think part of it was Camilla, part of it was Joe Biden, but it was Susan. It was Susan, wasn't it you, that pointed out that the pages were empty? So I can just imagine Trump having this big old pile and doing all this, but I can definitely see it if Kamala Harris gets in office.
Well, I think he's going to be a lot more circumspect if Trump gets into office, and he'll do his White House orders, executive orders, over that first 100 days.
Yeah.
He's going to want to have his staff, his everything that supports our government as far as leadership in place before he starts making any moves.
Well, you know, he's admitted at one of the rallies that 4 years is just going to be scratching the surface of what has been done to this country. And, you know, everybody says, well, the Democrats do, make America great again. It's such a horrible phrase. But, you know, it's the American people need to save America right now. It's not so much that we depend totally on Trump to fix things. I think America, listening to different people talk, and with me going doctor appointment to doctor appointment and talking to people, because I always ask questions, and it's the American people want to make America great again. Take Trump out of the equation, folks. Really, take Trump out of the equation. If whether you're watching us and you're voting either side, we have to get this country back in order. We're looking at a depression. I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. And a depression like this generation has never seen. And our grandparents or great grandparents that lived through it, they're not here to help us through this. We have to figure this out on our own.
Yeah, well, the United States goes through governmental corrections. Just a pure democratic government goes through their changes in months. We go through our changes here in the United States over generations. We can have 3 different generations pass by before we have a major political correction. And so what you're seeing is literally the tide of history, and you've got the folks in Washington, D.C. that are trying to fight against this tide, and eventually it's going to be like a tsunami. It's just going to push them out of the way. And so, yeah, they could slow it down by making Trump go away, but, you know, where there's a will and the people are ready, a leader will arise.
Mm-hmm.
president with this MAGA movement and this new push of going from extreme left in the country to headed towards more of a right or a center right now, political.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. If we now, if we were talking earlier about Japan and it going down with the stocks. Now, what concerns me is Japan is put so much money into helping Taiwan. I mean, because it's not only just China with their boats and they're circling Taiwan, but they were also getting close to Japan with Japan's drills, William. That was something that was going on a couple months ago. And now when I look at it, and then we seen, what was it, Kim Jong-un, he's coming out screaming he's gonna hurt somebody. Yeah.
Well, Japan hasn't stopped their production.
No.
What they've got is
Well, they
speculators
can't.
in the, I can't remember the name of the Tokyo exchange. Anyway, from all these different countries in the region, right? And so these global jitters are what has tamped down the stocks in Japan. But Japan's smart now. They're not going to allow all the money to go away. They'll shut down that exchange for days until these jitters go away.
Yeah.
And then let that market reassert itself.
Now, so with Japan, I'm thinking, everybody's thinking, well, Japan really isn't going to be able to help Taiwan. Now, when you look at what China's doing, and I had to get a hold of my friend over there in Taiwan, I said, is there anything really new happening? Are they getting closer? And he said the only thing what he's seeing is Taiwan at one point let China have a portion of the island. And what he's seeing is more and more Chinese moving into that area. And William, these are soldiers. This isn't just families. This is soldiers that are moving in. And they're just building up and building up and building up. Keep
in mind, Taiwan is not just one island. It's an archipelago
right.
of islands.
Yes.
So they move up some small islands that are right next to the Chinese coast. And it really doesn't affect them, except for the median line between the fisheries for China and Taiwan. Because they're so close, they can't have a 200-mile limit.
Yeah.
For their economic zone. So they just have what's called a median line. It's just halfway between China and Taiwan because they're so close together.
Yeah. And so and we've been barking about, or they have, about this imminent war. And we're still waiting. We're still waiting, which is good. Is really the most important thing right now. And I think even all of these leaders, when we have China with Russia and North Korea, when they all get together, and they are moving around the world. William, this is one thing I think we touched on a little bit with Kim Jong-un. I think he's going to be used like Iran is using Hezbollah. Is what I was going with this.
North Korea is the Asian Iran.
Right. Yeah. And I think what they're doing is they're giving him lots of money to make more and more weapons. Is how I'm looking at this. No one ever looks at what is Kim Jong's role in being part of. I know they got a name for it. I know we got our own name for it, but it was Russia and China and North Korea and a few others that had a meeting. I can't remember. And Mary, do you know the
he called them Red Pack.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, we call them the Red Pack. But see, that's what I think they're doing, and it's for. Everybody keeps saying it's a one world system. What about just one world of superpowers? I mean, I don't think they're going to let China take the world over and make us all slaves. I don't think they're going to let Russia do it either. They, meaning our this country.
Got too many competing forces. You've got
Mm-hmm.
the Europeans that want to have their one world leader. You've got Asians, either communist or non-communist, that want to have their one world leader. You've got people even in the United States that want to have communism here, so we can be the one world leader.
Yeah.
It's craziness.
But you know, when you're looking at you know, when I hear about this, I look at like Cuba and Venezuela or some of the countries that, or even Iran or Iraq, or who is going to let China or even um, any of the terrorists or any of those. I don't think the countries are going to allow them to take over their little towns. I know we're not. I know we got China has companies here, but if they start building up, I think Sarah Huckabee will put her foot down. So,
well, if there's a break in relationship between China and the United States, China's just going to lose their holdings in the United States. It'll be like that $6 billion that Iran's still trying to get out of the banks, right? From our embargo on Iran.
yeah.
So it depends on what happens with trade, whether these nations are bellicose with each other. You know, Russia's getting rich right now, and they're learning how to deal with the West weaponry. And so we haven't done ourselves any favors by continuing this thing in Ukraine.
Yeah.
This has been a good thing for the Ukrainian people generally. Now, stopping the general Russian overthrow that they tried to do initially and go into Kiev and stuff, that we had to help them with, because that was a changing board. But the Donbass, Luhansk, Crimea, this has always been a contested area.
Yeah.
And Europe, a united Europe trying to assert itself and put its governmental control across that line and into Russia. Russia's not going to tolerate that.
Oh no, I don't even think China would either. I think the two of them are just, and I don't. You know, the other thing is Soros, George Soros, is always in the news, and you notice that they might humor him, but I don't think they're going to let him in on their little powwow.
George Soros has had very little ability to move NGOs
into
Russia.
It's his son, and his son works quietly. And for those that don't know, he had been at the White House over 20 times in the first year Biden was in office.
Yeah, Soros's mini-me.
Yep, his son.
If you look at their pictures when they were the same age, they look like twins.
Okay, I want to move on to man, I don't know if people say it's shaming, but it is very relevant to bring this out. I brought this out a long time ago, and for the viewers that watched my show when I told everybody about this. The thing is, boy, did I get stuck here? Okay. When we look at, you know, I've always, William, I've always wanted, you know, maybe a woman president, maybe, or vice president, but Camilla Harris isn't the good choice. Even if I was a Democrat, I'd say the same thing. Only because I lived in California and I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s when Camilla Harris was going into office. Now, I call it the original squad. And you have to understand that squad. It was Camilla Harris was like the hey, you go do this so that we can get power in Senate and Congress. Now, what I'm talking about is Dianne Feinstein, Pelosi, and a lady named Barbara Boxer. And she was the runner too, as well as Camilla Harris. Now, if Willie Brown wouldn't have come out and exposed her for who she really is, I don't think we would be having this discussion today. And this is brought up very little. Now, she was dating Willie Brown when she was about 30 years old, William, and he was 60. Now, tell me how that works. It doesn't.
She was a homewrecker. She was a homewrecker.
She had an affair with Willie Brown. He was like the godfather of San Francisco politics. I mean, it was big back then. I don't think a lot of people don't worry about who's part of just one little city, but when Willie Brown was there, and he was big.
San Francisco has always tried to assert itself on the nation, and they've always done that through the power in Sacramento, and because they can get so many representatives in Congress. I mean, total numbers are a lot greater because they have that huge population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, the thing with her is he gave her in 1990, he gave her $400,000. This wasn't the first drop. He gave her $700,000 too at another time. And during the time that they were dating. And he also put her number one as DA, and she got awards for that. Now, it wasn't just Willie Brown. Let's see, Montel Williams. She dated Montel Williams and she ruined that marriage. I don't know if anybody ever knew that.
Yeah.
And she only sought out older guys. That's what I observed. Watching her in San Francisco. Now I lived in Sacramento, but still everything that was going on in San Francisco, everybody kept an eye on it for politics. Now, when she was just getting into the DA's office, she needed to be either in charge of the DA system or she needed to move on to politics. And so she slept with many men. They were basically loosey goosey there. They out and out just called her a ho-ho, and she slept her way to the top. That was the big thing. Dianne Feinstein said it one time, Pelosi said it, and Barbara Boxer, one of the reasons why she walked away from the squad. And she said, there'll be a new squad. She even said, in the future, you watch, there's going to be 4 or 5 women that get together like we did, but they will really go for the real purpose, not for one to sleep around to get herself a better paying job. She slept her way through.
Remember, Camilla Harris was raised in Canada in a communist home. Basically, it's what's going on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she comes to the United States, goes to school. Well, communists crave power, and they don't do that through elections. They do that through being appointed. So if she was going to be on the political stage, that was her way in.
Yeah, and she did, and if it wasn't, and it's what was it, Judge Joe Brown? I think she even dated him too, and tried to get somewhere. And it's after he got his show going, and so she I know my sister's in there in chat, so, and I know she knows the same info because I think you were what, living over in Fair Oaks or Carmichael. That it was a time that Camilla Harris was having all these affairs with Willie Brown, and it was like every night they were on the news. Uh, how he, she was destroying their marriage and how she was sleeping her way. There's news media in California. She's sleeping her way to the top. And one, as a CBS lady, I can't remember her name because it was a long time ago. She said, "You watch. She will sleep herself all the way to the White House."
Well,
Folks,
if you look at women in power through history, that's been a major vehicle. It was with Cleopatra. Trying to think of some of the other ladies, but there was an African lady that came into Israel, and she gained great amount of power by sleeping with the leader in Israel.
Yeah.
This is how things have been done over history. They learn from these modes, and then they will keep doubling down on it. And if you look at Camilla, she hasn't let herself be drugged down from her goals, even with children. She is a lady, but I don't think she's mom. She has children from marriages, right? But their responsibility is with their fathers. So it's allowed Camilla to have more ability to maneuver and move around in society without having to worry about some offspring.
Yeah.
And we have this whole thing going on with trans, and maybe she can't, right? And so that may be part of that push. But there's a lot of folks here in the United States that say, look, she's a lady. She could be the first lady president. We've been wanting to have a lady president for 80 years. Maybe she isn't the quality that we thought we'd get, but at least she's the right gender, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people here in the United States that are going to vote just on that basis.
Well, Democrats, hardcore Democrats, and I learned this from my dad very early on. He said they vote Democrat because they're a Democrat and they don't vote nothing else. That's all they do is every time they go to the polls, it's don't matter what they've done. They got to vote a Democrat in office. And now they're getting kind of worried. I think a lot of the politicians, the ones that's looking at retirement, because they don't want to be exposed. So, but
remember
folks,
that raid that went on with
there's
Trump?
There's a lot to, folks. There's a lot to Camilla Harris, and I don't think she's president worthy.
She's first generation American citizen by virtue of her mother was temporarily in the United States going to school when she was born. So she is literally a first generation American raised in a communist home. I don't think we want somebody like that as president. I would rather have a deep school of patriots coming out of a family that we place a president, like the Roosevelts. There was a lot less concern about will the Roosevelts care about the country because they have a long, deep history of family in the United States. They're going to care about the United States a lot more. But if you're just a Johnny-come-lately and you want the rest of the world to be like what you want the world to be, regardless of the Constitution, and so you're going to take the bully pulpit and try to control the world's most devastating military. This is dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
And we have the ladies that will vote and guys for Camilla based on her race or her sex are not looking at this President of the United States is also the leader of the free world.
Yeah.
Nothing happens without the President of the United States.
That's right.
And you've got political actors asking for support, right? The Johnny-come-lately is asking for support from a population that's not political. They just hear these little blips on mainstream media. They're not going to go and like study it out. They're going to be a lot more concerned with, you know, entertainment and just the things that go on in normal life. So that's who the Democrats are trying to bring into the fold right now. All these folks that are apolitical that may want to have a change in the presidency so that the ladies in power in the country can say they've broken through that glass ceiling. We've got lots of ladies running military branches right now, so that has changed. And we've had presidents that weren't in the Navy recently.
Yeah.
Which for, 60 years did not happen. So we've got a completely political civilian class that has no ties to the greatest export the United States has, which is our military power. And they're not connected to it in any way, shape, or form.
So,
and that's why we're seeing right now the Army can't get people to come in.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to my granddaughter. I listen to a lot of what her and her friends are saying. And some of the places they go and talk, I've kind of checked out a little bit just to see. They don't care about the war. They think there's going to be somebody out there take care of it. I guess they come up with these ghost or invisible soldiers, or hey, we'll just use drones and wipe people out. They don't have no, not even wanting to go into our military at all. They're I don't know what's wrong with these kids. But I could say
they're disconnected. Our politics is now disconnected from our greatest exports, and they've literally created their own little country called the District of Columbia now. They don't represent right now the average man and woman, so they have to have a gimmick to get their person into office, and that's what they're using Kamala and Tim as literally a gimmick. And I've also heard rumblings today that Biden might reassert himself and push them out as candidates before the convention. So we may see that. So there may be an internecine war within the Democratic Party going into the Democratic
I think it's going to be
convention.
both. I think there's going to be friction between the Democrat Party, but we're also going to see a friction in the Republican Party. I just got that feeling that we're just going to be looking at, thank God I got three. No, never mind.
Well, we've had what? We've had 3 Obama presidencies now.
Yeah. No, because I'm thinking when the Clintons came in, I'm thinking it's a more Clinton thing, because he vowed that he would be and her, they would be presidential until 2020. And that was back when they were
well, they were attached to that 2021 agenda 2021 to forward the WEF World Economic Forum's ideas on the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
Now, Obama is not as wedded to that WEF, World Economic Forum, because it doesn't include Muslims.
Yeah.
And for Obama, I think the Obamas, and they're really the ones directing government, the people that they put into these different offices, like the Pimentas and the Jarretts and whatnot, they're still running the government, and they're taking directions not from Biden exclusively. Because you got to remember, the Democratic Party is a group that always has debates. They have multiple power centers, and there's never any one power broker in the Democratic Party. They lead by a conference.
Yeah.
They don't lead by exclusive leadership. They don't believe in outcomes. They believe they can govern by process, not by outcomes, whether they have a good or bad outcome. They're not interested in that. They're only interested that they're maintaining the process. So when you have Mayorkas, and he comes in and says, "Oh, everything's great here in national security," he's looking at it from a perspective of we're maintaining our functional presence, but he's not wedded to an outcome. He's just wedded to a process. Well, yeah, the FBI is doing great. Their processes are still processing, right? So the Democrats think things are going just swimmingly. And even if you look at the supporters of the Democratic Party, like these big tech giants and stuff, they're wedded to process. They're not wedded to outcomes anymore, like they were when they were first coming into the marketplace. And so they're looking at what's going on as a symbiotic relationship of governmental, financial, technology symbiosis between these entities, and then they push each other around with these NGOs to try to get leverage on either the government or the government trying to get leverage on tech or manufacturing. So when the Democrats are in power, it's all about process. When you have somebody like Trump that comes in, it's about an outcome. So if he can sit there and say, on this chart, this is how everything was going, and see how low it was, the number of people coming into the United States while I was president, and the growth of the economy while I was president. He has outcomes he can point at. The Democrats don't point at those things. They point at process. How many people in the Democratic Party have we included in our process? How many people in the senior executive services members in the U.S. government are within our control of process? And that's what's created this deep state, is the wedding themselves to the process, not necessarily the outcome. And they will throw anything away they have to as far as our freedoms, if it will maintain their power within the process. Because it's all about process. And I hope the people can kind of understand that. So when they go out into the world doing foreign policy, it's just about process. It's not necessarily about an outcome. Like we were going to have the accords going on in the Arabic countries, right? Under Trump. They don't really care about that. All they care about is they're getting the diplomats going in and out of the countries, communicating with them, making deals. It's just about process. And war for a Democrat, war is just process.
Yeah. Well, we have funded so many wars, and the Democrats are just eager to keep giving the grants out, or a lot of these you just give it to them, like Ukraine.
Well, they're agnostic about what happens on the battlefield because they're just not people that'll put themselves in the battlefield.
Or their kids.
Well, yeah, because the only way to maintain power is generationally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, generational wealth is the only kind of wealth that matters.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to look what happened to the Kennedys. The oldest Kennedy son was going to be a presidential contender, and he was shot down as a pilot in World War II. And so Kennedy's had to go and put somebody else up that wasn't as strong, that wasn't as idealistic with the family. And so these other folks, families, power brokers, if you will, interlocking chairmanships of these corporations, they're not going to take the risk of losing a generation and then having that generational wealth destroyed, because look at all the vile things they've had to do in a lot of times to gain that generational wealth.
Yeah.
When these big corporations go to work on each other, it's literally a war.
Yeah.
They'll take each other out. They'll destroy each other's infrastructure. They'll change policy in Congress to favor one corporation over another. It's war on it, just a different way. It's just an economic war, and they don't want to give up their power ever.
No, heck no. So anyway, William, I think we're going to cut it for the night. We're going to be back Friday, folks, me and William, for another news show. We're going to try to, not this Friday, but the following Friday, we're hoping to bring back the live trivia. But I'm going to slowly start doing shows again. And they say I'm only going to get stronger and better. So, William, I think we're going to have a good time Friday. So,
okay. Yeah, and Elly's got me blocked into being on the show a couple times a week for the rest of my life, I think.
You like it. Come on. You like it when I poke you. As long as I don't poke the dog, right? So, okay, folks, I thank you for watching. Please hit that thumbs up button and share. I've let people know that we're back on again, and that, if we're just going to keep moving along until Elly's 100%, and it shouldn't take long. So hit that thumbs up and the hearts and share, and tell family and friends that we're back. And we'll probably see some lifestyles, and because California had a 5.3 earthquake. Odd. We had one here. It was a 2.4, but it was way down south. So we'll get back into watching the hurricanes. We're getting into hurricane season. So lifestyle news will be back. Everybody liked that one too. And then, of course, trivia. But we'll get with me and William for a couple times until I'm a lot stronger. And then we'll get back on board and have all these shows back again. So, William, I thank you. It was good to, have you in there, even though you got a big head. I got to figure out the problem I'm having with having you take up the whole frame. I don't know.
Well, it just keeps swelling. I'm walking around like a big bobblehead now here in my house.
Maybe I should change your dark man, but I like it. All right, folks, come on back Friday, and I thank you so very much for watching, and God bless.